So opening the card on Fight Island is Victoria Leonardo versus Manon Fiorot. I happen to know Leonardo. My opinion is this fight, I'm going to go with Manon. Listen, don't judge.
We are going to butcher some names here.
Pronunciation.
Starting right off the bat. I think you put an L in there. I don't think there's an L in her last name, but I think you called her Fiorot.
Yeah, Fiorot.
It's an I.
I think that's an I. Yeah. It's a lowercase I. It's all right. Go ahead.
Oh, that's a lowercase. All right, Fiorot. Anyway, what's interesting about this fight is the opening odds. Leonardo was almost a 2-1 favorite, and the odds have completely shifted. And actually, let's pop over here and look. The odds have completely shifted, and now Fiorot is almost a 2-1 favorite. So that's an interesting one, and I trust the people. The people know what they're talking about. And the reason odds shift for anybody that doesn't bet consistently is Vegas says, we think this person's going to win, so that's why they're a 2-1 favorite. And then the money starts pouring in. And as the money comes in, Vegas changes the odds. So the fact that these odds have shifted, and I happen to know for a fact, Victoria Leonardo is good at everything or okay at everything, but not an expert at anything, where Fiorot, she is a great striker with phenomenal kicks, great range, and she's going to light up your legs and really use her legs to dictate the fight. And I think she takes this. But I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys have any insight on this?
Go ahead, Dan. If you've, I watched tape on both of them.
Yeah, I watched a little tape. I agree with a lot of things you said. I think Leonardo is really tough. She's solid everywhere. Fiorot, also very tough. I think she's 5-1, right? 5-1. Yeah. So I watched some tape on her. She looks good. She's really tough, physical, looks to have good wrestling, solid striking, and I think she's improving every fight. But I think the big factor here is the physicality. She looks really strong, aggressive, and again, young, up and coming, improving. So I'm going to give her the edge, but I'm probably not going to put it in my DraftKings lineup just because I think both fighters are really durable, and I'm not 100% sure which way it's going to go. But if I had to pick, I'd go with Fiorot.
All right, Jacob. So Dan and I both seem to be leaning towards Fiorot. DraftKings tends to be smarter than the odds makers. So the odds makers opened up with Leonardo being a big-time favorite. DraftKings has her at $7,300 and Fiorot $8,900. So they came out of the gate. They knew that this was a much better fight than what Vegas was saying. You think Fiorot's worth the money? What does your analysis say? Who do you think's going to win that fight?
So I'm going opposite of you guys based on what I saw in the 30 seconds of film I watched on both fighters. Because you guys said you watched some film. When I was watching Fiorot, the 30 seconds I watched, so maybe it was just a random 30 seconds, she looked very quick, very agile, but she looked wild. You guys see like some wildness out of her? Like I'm talking like just throwing like not covering up, just throwing wild stuff.
But wild matters. Wild is a problem if you're fighting a wrestler because you get wild in on the legs. That's it. You're down. And wild's a problem if you're fighting a just laser striker that's just gonna, your overhand's too high, bang, right up the middle.
So that's
not gonna happen with Leonardo.
So to touch on that, and I was gonna ask you, since you know where I just watched the film I watched, the fight I watched, she's kind of just head down, marching forward, not afraid to get hit, which seems like she'd get in the pocket with Fiorot or whatever the name we've decided that is. And then the fight I saw too, she was wrestling and she was taking advantage of her jiu-jitsu, and
Leonardo.
Yeah. I think she had won by submission or was close to winning by submission.
And she's had more than one fight where she was getting pummeled.
And she looks tough. I mean, tough.
Yeah, and ended up on top and won the fight.
Yeah, Leonardo, I think, was losing her last fight. And she fought a really good striker, but ended up getting her to the ground and getting the finish.
So in my opinion, if you're looking for an underdog, she could have value there at 7,300. If she's tough, she's going to stay forward. Even when she was getting hit back. If there's a scramble,
You might be right on the value there.
She could end up on top. That's how I saw it.
Value-wise, and then this is where this reinforces the point. Betting and DraftKings lineups are not the same thing. For $7,300, maybe she's worth throwing into a DraftKings lineup. I would never put actual money on her in a real fight. And listen, I'm not touching Fiorot in my DraftKings lineup, not for $8,900. $8,900 to me is like, you're definitely winning this fight and probably stopping somebody. Not man, she's got very good striking and the other one's just okay.
Jacob, you going to put Leonardo in your lineup?
Dan, we're going to have to wait and see.
Okay. All right.
I think there's good value.
All right. Well,
that's a good point.
As this goes on and people see your lineups over time.
Yeah. The suspense is not really worth it.
So